What's going on? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I want to say welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. Today, I want to talk about something that I said the other day involving relationships and how that links to wealth. And I made a comment that said, don't marry the person you like, marry the person who likes you. So some people understood what I was saying, where I was coming from. Some people didn't. So I decided I would go a little bit deeper and explain it so you can understand that I wasn't just talking out of the side of my neck. So get comfortable, buckle up, seatbelt. Give me a yes if you can hear me in the chat. We're going to get started on drboycetv.com right now.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I want to say hello to everybody. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Let's do a quick audio check. Give me a yes in the chat if you can hear me okay. Let me know you can hear me. Give me a quick yes just to let me know that my sound is coming through all right. Because sometimes the audio acts a little bit weird, and I don't know how to explain that. It just happens. Maybe it's the Illuminati trying to stop intelligent Black people from taking over the world. I don't know. But anyway, I need to know from you guys, can you hear me? Give me a yes. Okay, I can see you can hear me on Instagram. Thank you. I see, let's see, I'm on TikTok now. And by the way, there's about 60 fake TikTok accounts out there with my name on it. So if you follow me on TikTok, look for the one that has about 30,000 followers. We're not that big on TikTok, but we're growing. So if you ever look for me on TikTok, and just know I will never, ever message you directly in your inbox like that. I won't be reaching out to you saying, hey, brother, is your crypto doing good? I got a crypto site. I want you to buy some crypto. That ain't me. That's a scammer. So please don't fall for that, because some people get their lose money, and it makes me feel very bad. Anyway, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, another reminder, the All Black National Convention is almost here. It happens next month. It's going to be in Atlanta. Get your plane ticket. You will love it. I guarantee it. You will have the greatest time in your life. It is the most extraordinary experience ever. Just ask anybody who's ever been there. Go ask somebody who's been to the convention. What's that convention like? Is it bad? They're going to probably tell you that it changed their life. They're going to tell you that it's a space that is beautiful because it's devoid of all the toxicity that you see online, all the chaos that you see out here, the niggerosity that's at an all-time high. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all give me a yes if you've seen this just craziness online, people attacking each other, Black men attacking Black women attacking Black men. No, we believe in Black family. We believe in Black love. We believe in Black wealth. We believe in peace, prosperity, and productivity. We also believe in preparing our kids for the future. So it's a fun event. The experts there are all on board with this ideology. And also, it's a great way to network with others that are similar to yourself. We actually had a couple that met a couple years ago, Keisha and her husband. Gosh, I don't have his name in front of me. I feel so bad right now. But they just had a baby, actually. They met at the convention a couple of years ago. So shout out to them. Anyway, all right. So shout out the city you're from. Let me know what city you're from. I see B. Boggs out of North Carolina. Let's see here. What are the cities we got here? I see Baltimore. My name is Corey. I see Helen out of Delaware. Good to see you, Helen. All right, so let's get started here. All right, so on my Twitter account, I put up a comment that I think was a little misinterpreted, and so I thought it would be fun to go a little bit deeper in what I said. I see you in there, Brooklyn and Jacksonville, Florida. I see y'all too. Basically, the comment had to do with something that some people don't understand. Why I might comment on something like this. Some people think that it's out of my lane, and they don't understand how economics really works. And sometimes every now and then I'll share perspective on relationships as a 52-year-old married man who came from a solid family, because I really think, I don't know if you guys agree. Give me a yes if you agree that Black relationships have just gone off the rails. Give me a yes if you think that it's just highly abnormal that 76% of our children don't even have a father in the house. How many of y'all think that that's abnormal? Or do you think that that's okay? Do you think that that's normal? You think that's a good thing? You think that having 72% of your kids growing up without a dad is all right? Like, if you think that that's normal, and you haven't noticed how strange that is, I want to ask you another question. What if 72% of our kids had no mother in the house? right? Because there are people who will justify that. There are people who will say, and I'm not mad at you. I'm not trying to attack you. I'm just trying to give you my truth. There are people who will say, no, 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 that's not true. Black dads are as more involved than other dads, I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm not saying that brothers aren't doing their best. To the good dads that are doing their best, thank you. To the dads that got put out of the house for a reason that had nothing to do with you, my empathy goes out to you, for sure, 100%. I totally get it. But this idea that somehow 72% of the fathers not being in the house is normal and okay is a little bit of a problem, because what if 72% of the mothers were not in the house with their kids? What if 72% of the moms said, you know what, I'm out, or they were kicked out? Let's say the dads just were like, you got to go, you got to get up out of here because I didn't like something you did, you nagged me too much or whatever. And then we were saying, oh, well, but mothers are highly involved. She sees her mom once every 2 weeks, and her mom brings diapers by. Like really, like what if you use that same standard? Do you understand what I'm saying? Give me a guess if you follow this analogy. I have to use these analogies to help us understand this, right? And I know Rashad says Larry Elder said the same thing, and that's an area where I don't disagree with Larry Elder. Where I don't align with Larry Elder politically is that Larry Elder is a guy who will put black people on the hook, but he'll let white folks off the hook. Do you understand what I'm saying? He'll put black people on the hook and talk accountability all day long when it comes to black folks, but then have no accountability when it comes to white supremacy, white folks, and the people that are running this government. That's why I'm not in alignment with a Larry Elder. I don't disagree with what he's saying, but what I think about in terms of some of the Republicans who may say the same thing is that they're using something that is true to make a point that is untrue. They're making the true statement that 76% or 72%, whatever the number is, of black families don't have a father in the home, which is true, to make some point that it's all black people's fault. Do you understand the difference there? Do you understand the nuance? Because you got to understand, Farrakhan, who has proven that he loves black people, Louis Farrakhan, I mean, you might not like him, you may not agree with everything, but you can't say he ain't dedicated to black folks. Louis Farrakhan would make the very same point. But Minister Farrakhan, the difference between a Larry Elder and a Minister Farrakhan is that Farrakhan will hold black people accountable, and he'll hold white America accountable. Larry Elder don't do that. Most of the Republicans can't do that. Most of the Republicans, they hold their boss accountable. They get slapped like a little bitch. They'll get pumped. They'll get pimp slapped by their boss, by the people that are paying their bills. That's why you won't see me becoming a Republican. I'm not doing that. But you also won't see me become a Democrat, because if you don't think that there's white supremacy in the Democratic Party, I feel sorry for you. I feel very bad for you. I want to. My goal is not to chastise you or attack you. It's to elevate your self-esteem, to help you realize that you don't need none of these people. You don't need none of these people. So anyway, let me keep going. Do me a favor, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent black people. I have a new book out called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. It is on Amazon. It's also at drboycebooks.com. So feel free to go take a look. I have some other books out there too. Black American Money, The New Black Power, Financial Lovemaking. I have a lot of books. So feel free to look my books up. What's up, Dr. Vibe? I got to put the Dr. Vibe show up here. I'm becoming an indirect benefactor of the Dr. Vibe show, because every time I see a show, I feel the need to tell everybody to subscribe, because I just respect all intelligent black people that are doing good things for the community. And my wife and I know of Dr. Vibe, but I got to be careful, because I support a lot of black owned businesses, and I was also supporting the Tulsa Real Estate Fund by saying, hey, I invested, let's support this black business. And then suddenly people started claiming that I was making money by supporting them, and I got no money from supporting them. I was an investor just like a lot of other people, but it's life, right? Sometimes people are going to misinterpret. No good deed goes unpunished, but I'm gonna keep on doing good deeds, and they can keep punishing me because I can take it. You can't cancel a soldier. That's impossible. So anyway, let's keep going here. So let me talk about what I said on Twitter. I put it on my Twitter account. My Twitter is Dr. Boyce Watkins 1, Dr. Boyce Watkins 1. And what I said on my Twitter was a very basic statement. It was very basic. And maybe the fact that, and I try to make the statements that I make more basic, because sometimes I give too much information. Sometimes I say too much and it confuses people, right? So I said, okay, boys, just keep it simple. Just make your point and move on with your life. You ain't got to give a whole dissertation every time you talk. So what I did was I made a very simple statement, and I agree with this statement. I'll stand by the statement, but I felt like the statement needs a little nuance. And here it is. I'm going to share my screen in case you can see it. And by the way, this podcast is on Spotify and Apple. So if you want to listen on Apple Music or Spotify, just look up the Dr. Boyce Breakdown on Spotify. So here's the comment that I made on Twitter. I thought it was a pretty basic comment, and most people understood it, but I thought that it required a little more nuance. It says, don't marry the person you like, marry the person who likes you. And you know, and I look at this statement. The first thing I'll say is I probably should have said, don't just marry the person you like, marry the person who likes you, right? So to me, it goes without saying that if you marry somebody, you probably like them. You probably like them, right? You probably like the person. But then let's dig deeper into the statement of what I was trying to say. Again, first of all, give me a yes if you understand where I'm coming from, not if you agree. Again, this is not a platform where I expect you to agree with everything I say, because sometimes I may be wrong or sometimes I have a different perspective from you. The goal for all of us is to think. Critical analysis, critical thinking is a skill that people don't value in a politically charged world. Everybody wants you to agree with them. I'm not one of those people. I'm not going to sit around and tell you you have to agree with me in order to be correct. I want to hear from you. So give me a yes if you can at least hear what I'm saying, if you at least kind of get it, right? And then I'm gonna explain where it came from, and I'm gonna explain just from my experience. And I do this because I want I want to help somebody. Number one, I'm hoping this helps somebody. Number two, people forget often that relationships and wealth are deeply linked. So if you wonder why this finance professor talks about relationships sometimes, it's because bad relationships is a wealth destroyer, and I'm going to explain exactly why that happens. So okay, so thank you. I see some yeses. Okay, so let me explain what I was trying to say here, and here's and I stand by it. I'm not changing much of it. I told you I'd add that one word, like just, but that's it. The idea is very basic. A lot of people, I believe, pick who they want to be with based on who their best option is, right? They look at the list of all the girls they could date or the list of all the men they could be with, and they find the one that they're most attracted to. And then they try to, then they get with the person, right? And they maybe have some good, good oochie coochie, you know what I'm talking about, and some good experiences. And then they say, "Oh, that's going to be my husband." I'm talking more about the ladies, to be honest with you, because I see the mistake more so, a little bit more so on the lady side than the men's side, because I think men and women are built differently. I think women are a little better prepared for things like marriage and long-term commitment. They tend to value it a little bit more. Whereas a lot of guys, I know when I was young, I wasn't always looking for a relationship that was going to last for 50 years. I wasn't. 50 days would have been okay too when I was 25 years old. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wasn't always the man who wanted to marry my wife. I'm just have to be truthful about that. Um, so the reason I bring that up is because a lot of people never really learn how to properly choose a spouse. And how would you actually know that? I mean, I want you to think about this. How would you even know that if your parents never talked to you about it? And if your parents never actually did it, if you never actually saw your parents stay together and be married for 30, 40, 50 years. Most people don't get that experience. So when people pick a spouse, I believe that sometimes they pick based on a fantasy or an illusion. I had a friend who, her father, she was a single parent household, had a very strong mother, like a lot of Black women, very strong mother, disciplined her educationally. She went to Harvard. She eventually got a great job. She probably makes about $300,000-$400,000 a year. She's approaching 50. I knew her in her 30s, and so she was always dating. And whenever we would talk, she would tell me about the men she would meet. And she would always, in her mind, she always felt like she was looking for the one. I'm looking for the one, Boyce. I'm looking for the one. And I say, okay, what does the one look like? And what would happen is, every 6 months there'd be some new guy she was enamored with, and she tended to like these men that were, wealthy and famous and successful or whatever, right? She'd meet these guys and get excited about it. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know if some of these guys are going to make good husbands. I don't know if I don't know if you're looking for a man that actually exists. And that's what I actually said to her. I said, I think you're kind of looking for a man that doesn't exist, but I think you enjoy the chase. It's almost like they have those TV shows. Have you ever seen those TV shows where the whole, excuse me, every season of the show is somebody looking for their father? Like, anybody remember Kung Fu? Anybody old enough to remember Kung Fu? If you tell me you remember Kung Fu, that means you're real old. I'm making fun of you. But yeah, there was a show called Kung Fu back in the day. And David Carradine was the star of the show. And all David Carradine was doing was looking for his father, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm mixing shows up, but that's all he did for season after season. He was always looking for his father. And I think when he finally found his father, it was over, right? Or like on Good Times. Anybody remember Good Times? Anybody ever watch old episodes of Good Times? What were they always trying to do on Good Times? On Good Times, they were always trying to get out of the projects. Remember? And every time you thought they was going to get out, something would go wrong and they would be stuck back in the projects, right? Which, by the way, on a subconscious level, it was a horrible show for Black people, just so you know. That was literally training you to be like mosquitoes in the jar. That show, love Good Times. I watched it like everybody else. But this idea that somehow when you're Black, it's always going to end up badly for you, Do you understand that that has a huge impact on your subconscious mind? Right? Because that forces you to go through life kind of thinking, well, if you black, you only gonna go as far as you want to. Like when I was in college and I had a really high GPA. I was known for being the smart kid. And I talked to one of my friends. I remember she said, well, I don't know why you do all that studying. You only gonna go as far as white people want you to go. And I was like, wow, who screwed you up? Like, what's wrong with you? Hey, who told you that? You don't understand, girl. Can't nobody stop me. Ain't nobody gonna hold me back. Anyway, so here's the thing. Um, my friend was in that category, or in that sort of constant state of looking for the one. Anybody know people like that? Anybody know somebody like that where they have every 6 months they have a new relationship and they claim to always be looking for the one and they never really find the one. And then when you say, well, why haven't you found the one? But you dated, 25 guys in the last 6 years, and they'll say, well, because I refuse to settle. Right. And what does that mean? Well, that means that I have an itchy trigger finger. That means I have my track shoes ready so that the first time I find out that he is not immortal, the first time I find out that he's human, the first time he makes a mistake, I'm gone. I'm out. Right. And, and that's what it is. Right. Because even when people say things like I refuse to settle, that's a crazy statement to make, mainly because that's what marriage is settling down. You're settling. You literally pick a person and you're saying, okay, like my wife, I picked my wife. I settled for my wife. I thought she was a wonderful catch. So, but here's the thing. If I ever get to the point where I have a bad day and we're getting on each other's nerves, I can't leave and go and find some other woman to replace her. I got to go deal with the lady that's in the other room. I have to settle for that. Right. And that's something I think is a gift and a curse at times. It depends on the state of the relationship. And so what I would say to you is, that a lot of times I think that when some young ladies pick husbands, they pick the best man that's available to them without picking the best man for the job. Do you understand what I'm saying? They look and they say, okay, I want a man who's this tall, makes this much money, it looks this good, has this much swag, whatever. And there's not any other variables factored in other than the fact that he's your number one pick. And what they don't understand is something that like maybe NFL teams kind of understand or they understand in sports, is that just because they're your number one pick, that doesn't mean you're their number one pick. Do you understand? So when you just say, I want the absolute best person I can find to be with, that makes sense if life worked like a fairy tale. But when you do all that and you don't factor in whether that person is a fit for the role of a husband and whether that man values you at the same level, then you're going to end up missing a big part of the equation. You're going to run into what I call the Halle Berry problem. Halle Berry, by the way, Halle Berry, her latest ex-husband is now going to get millions of dollars in alimony from her because she's had this string of relationships with these really handsome men, really successful men, really wealthy men, really famous men. And all those relationships have pretty much, from what I've seen, ended up in complete disaster. So you would say, how would somebody as beautiful as Halle Berry have a string of disastrous relationships? Well, part of it, it could be her, obviously, right? Because she plays a part in every situation she's in. But the other part of it could be how she's choosing the men to be with, right? And so one thing I can tell you, for example, is that I didn't just pick my wife because of how I felt about her. I will tell you. I'll be honest with you. I'll be a little personal on this. It's always funny when I say stuff that's personal. Some people run with it and they love to gossip and speculate on my relationship. None of these people have met my wife, so we just whatever. We just laugh about it. But so I'm gonna give them something else to gossip about right now. My wife was always somebody that I admired. In my mind, my wife was a 10. She was a 10. If you'd asked me 10, 15 years ago, who's the prettiest woman that you know, I would say, oh yeah, Alicia. Right. But she was married to somebody else. We'd been friends for a long time. You could say that I was friend zoned, but obviously that's not true because she told me, she said it thousands of times that if I'd asked her out, she would have gone out with me. But sometimes it's better to have a good friendship than it is to have a relationship. People don't think about that. Everybody's trying to go for the sweet spot. Everybody wants the sex. Everybody thinks that you have to show your affection toward each other through sex and relationships, when really a good friendship with a good woman can be very rewarding. It's really rewarding. And I would encourage intelligent men who aren't just thinking with their penises to realize that sometimes you have to keep a girl in, quote unquote, in your friend zone in order to really get the best out of her and to really have the best experience. And in fact, people that are friends, tell me if you've ever seen this. I believe this is true. A friend will be more honest with you than somebody that's trying to date you. Somebody that's dating you is going to have certain things they cannot tell you. They're going to have certain things they're going to hide from you. They're trying to make a certain impression on you. Whereas your friend will just kind of tell you everything. So through the years, as I knew my wife and I was living my life, she was living hers, we would tell each other stuff. So we learn more about each other as friends than we probably ever would have learned if we had been in a relationship. So everything ain't got to end up in the bedroom. Everything ain't got to end up with sex. And I don't know why other people don't get this. I don't get that. I think we just have a society that does not value a cerebral existence. Everybody is being motivated by their penises and their vaginas, by what feels good, orgasms, all this other stuff. And I just don't understand that. I get it because I think it comes from media and all that, but people sort of pursue this pleasure-seeking culture without considering all the consequences that come with it, all the emotional consequences, where you just try to sleep with a girl and you have no plans for this girl, but you're gonna go and manipulate her, use her, lie to her, tell her whatever she wants to hear so you can get in her drawers, and then you're gonna dump her, break her heart, and you become the ultimate asshole, and she hates you for that. And then same thing is true also with women. If you meet a guy that you like, that doesn't mean that man is supposed to be your husband. Some men aren't built to be husbands. Some men, in fact, I'm gonna give you a list of the variables based on research. This is not some Derek Jackson scenario where I'm giving you advice based on just what I think, or and when I was as young as that poor guy, 32 years old, 31 years old, I couldn't have gave you this advice. I can give you this advice as a 52-year-old married man. There is scientific research, and as a scholar also, there's scientific research that says which types of men make the best husbands. And I'm gonna read that list to you in 1 second so you can go about choosing in a way that makes sense. Because the way you choose a husband ain't the way you choose a boyfriend, or the way you choose a boyfriend ain't the way you choose a one-night stand, right? People have all these different needs and preferences, and when you jumble all that, you end up shitting where you eat. Basically, you end up putting the kitchen in the bathroom. That's what you end up doing. Do you understand? Imagine if you had to eat dinner every day next to the toilet. Imagine that. That's what you're doing. That when you marry somebody, like, just it's really the female. For females, it's equivalent to when men try to turn a hoe into a housewife. Anybody ever heard people say that? Never try to turn a hoe into a housewife. Like, there's not hoes are nice. Hoes have a place in society for sure. But their place is not meeting my mother and sitting down at the dinner table and me professing my love to that woman in front of the world. If my wife had that past and that experience, I'd still be attracted to her, but I don't know if I would have brought her home to my mother. Well, the same thing is true, I think. So I think with ladies, I think also because you don't get the guidance from your father. Remember, boys get this from their mothers. Their mothers can see through a woman's game. So their mothers kind of prepare them for this. I don't think girls get the same preparation. Do you follow what I'm saying? Because 76% of black girls grow up without a father in the house and without a man in their life that is giving them consistent advice. So a lot of y'all, in my opinion, this is me humbly speaking here. A lot of y'all trying to turn hoes into housewives. You literally are you meet a guy like the rapper Future, right? And there's nothing about this man that would ever say that he'd make anybody a good father or husband. Nothing. And he's not lying to you about it. He tells you, I don't like women. I don't respect them. He tells you, I got 45 girlfriends. He tells you, I got, he won't tell you about the diseases he might have too that comes with all that. He'll tell you, look, I don't like you. I don't want I don't need nothing from you. I'm going to cheat on you. He gives you all those signals, but for whatever reason, there are women that because of the emotional excitement of being near a famous man or whatever it is, whatever charisma he has, will somehow romanticize him into a role for which he is fully unqualified. And in fact, you're giving him a job that he didn't even apply for. A lot of men don't even apply for the job, and you want to give them the job. And I think that this is where you end up with all these tragedies in relationships. This is where you end up with absolute chaos. And the other thing too, here's another thing. This is something, this sounds political when I say it, but I'm giving you a stream of consciousness on this so I can be honest with you. It also fits into this narrative that the woman is always going to be the victim. So what happens is they train you to victimize yourself, and then you get to spend your life whining and crying about how terrible men are. When men are not terrible. Men are not the ones who did that to you for the most part. Men didn't do that to you. That man did that to you. And that man is only in your life because you allowed that man to be in your life. So what I tell young ladies when they ask me advice on stuff, and I've given extensive counseling to young women before, I still do. They call me and ask me stuff, and I just tell them what I think. I say, look, if a man is not somebody that you really want in your space for a long period of time, if you think that he's not making good choices, don't even don't even go to dinner with him. Definitely don't let him touch you, because if you read up on the science, I'm a scientist. I read science of attractions, the science of sex, the science of relationships. Sex is easy to understand. It's very easy to understand how to give good sex because I read a book about it when I was 19. It made a difference. It was very easy. At that point, I was like, oh, all you got to do is this, and this. Okay, I got it. I've always been a cerebral. I've been a reader. Right? I know it's amazing how much crazy stuff they put in books that people never figure out. And so the same thing is true. So when I read about the science of attraction, one thing I believe to the core of my soul from what I've read is that there's a chemistry within women that is very different from men. Men have a lot of testosterone, which shapes your sexual behavior very different from women who tend to, based on what I've read, be heavily driven by things like oxytocin. Men and women both have oxytocin for sure, but women can be overwhelmed by it. And what does that mean? Well, that means that even if a guy's a piece of crap, even if you know that guy's no good for you, even if that guy is absolute garbage with the word garbage tattooed on his forehead, you can still fall in love with garbage because you let that garbage in your bed. When you let the garbage in your bed, next thing you know, you're gonna become the garbage man, except you're a woman. So that's what I really believe. So I just tell women, look, just think of it like think of good sex or whatever like a drug. You know, if I don't want to ever be addicted to fentanyl, I'm not gonna go snort fentanyl and then say, "Oh, I'll never be addicted." I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going near it. I don't want nothing to do with no drugs. Do you understand? So sex and love really is a drug. And I don't know if people understand it that way because the drug is constantly marketed to you. Give me a yes if you follow this. Have you noticed, especially in the black community, most of the female hip hop artists that are famous, all of them actually, heavily market sex constantly. They don't just market sex to you, they market cheap sex to you. They market irresponsible sex to you. You look, if I was to list the top female artists, black female artists in America right now that are rapping, you would have Cardi B, who raps about her vagina in every other verse. You have Megan Thee Stallion, who doesn't do a concert without twerking at least 20 times in the concert, I'm sure. You got Lizzo, who's got women at concerts shooting dildos out of their vaginas and whatever craziness that she's got going on, and calling that empowerment and liberation. Also, I can keep going down the list. And then I'm not going to talk about Suki Hana and Sexy Red, who is absolutely positively got to be an industry plant. So that is, if she's walking propaganda, that's what she is, because the girl can't even rap. At least with Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, I can give them credit for being great rappers. I can give Lizzo credit for being a great singer. I just wish that she wouldn't come along with all the shenanigans. But Sexy Red can't even rap. Like literally, if you ever want to get a good laugh, go look up Sexy Red, watch her rap. It's like hilarious. So my point is to say that I think that in this society, what they've kind of done is they've taken the things that are most valuable and convinced you to make them cheap. They've also, as Dr. Francis Cress Welsing talked about, they've gotten your whole community obsessed with buffoonery and sex. So if you're obsessed with buffoonery and sex, then your whole life, because of the buffoonery, your whole life will turn into a circus. They got you acting like clowns. You're surrounded by clowns. You become a clown. So therefore, your whole life becomes nothing but a complete circus. And then they got you obsessed with sex. So all you're thinking about is sex. Everybody around you's thinking about sex. You're giving away sex cheap, whatever. Next thing you know, you got a whorehouse. So you got a circus and a whorehouse that defined your life. That's what ultimately occurs. You have a circus and a whorehouse defining your life, and we don't understand where it came from. So I would almost say to you, it's important to understand these things because this does affect how we choose our mates. So anyway, do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent black people. My website is boycewatkins.com. So feel free to go check out my website. Also, you guys know my doctorate's in finance, and I like to see black people get wealthy. So what I do is I have something called a profit alerts list where I text you stocks that I'm buying once a week or so. And so if you'd like to get on that list, just text the word stock to 31996. Text stock to 31996. 31996. Text the word stock to 31996. Also, we have a social media platform that we created that operates a lot like Facebook, and it's a great place for those that believe in peace, power, prosperity for the black community. and productivity as well. So if you're into that kind of thing and you're not bringing the negativity, then go to blaggenuf.com, BLAGGENUF. That's 2 G's, BLAGGENUF.com. You have to apply to get in, though. And once you get in, though, you can invite your friends, but they have to apply too. We don't want ratchetness. People coming in there acting crazy. We're going to block them. But there's about 60,000 of you on the platform now. So if you'd like to join, feel free to do that. The URL's on the screen. Okay. So anyway, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Just a reminder, we are also on Spotify and Apple. So feel free to look up the Dr. Boyce Breakdown on those platforms. So let me give you all something here. So we were talking about the comment I made on Twitter where I said, don't marry the person you like, marry the person who likes you. Some people didn't understand what I was saying, so I wanted to clarify that. And really, if I thought about it a little more, I would have said, don't just marry the person you like, marry the person who likes you. So I believe that if you get married, you should pick somebody that you like. Obviously, don't pick someone that you are unattracted to. That's not going to work. You're not going to be a good spouse. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be happy. However, once you pick somebody you like, I think it's very important to figure out whether or not they like you. Because if somebody does not like you and they don't value you the way you value them, then what's happening is you're creating a power dynamic in your relationship that is going to be biased toward you. Has anybody ever been in a relationship with somebody that you think about this? Think about the time, and I'm not even going to ask you if. I'm going to say when, because everybody's had this experience. How many of you, give me a guess if you can think of a time where you were deeply into somebody and they were not into you. Give me a yes if you remember that time. And I want you to really think about that time. I want you to think about that person. Just think of that person. Get that person's name in your head and think about how you felt when you were ready to do whatever for them. You know, like you were buying her roses and showing up at her doorstep and willing to take her out to dinner, spend your last on this girl, and this girl wasn't giving you the time of day. Or this guy, you were giving him all your good stuff and all your attention and all your time, and he wasn't giving you the time of day. He never had time for you, wasn't interested in you, was cheating on you, wasn't even thinking about you. Right? Wouldn't even do the basics for you. And that was a confusing dynamic, right? It's very confusing because when you go through that, you're like, wow, wait, I'm treating you well. I'm really being nice to you, but you're not being nice to me. Right. And so effectively what I concluded, and I'm going to use myself as an example here because, when the reason I don't get bothered is when guys look at me and my wife and jokingly call me a simp, for some reason they created that stupid narrative. They don't even know me. But the reason that doesn't bother me is because I know that's not true. But I am going to say that there was a time where I did have that experience. I dated a girl in college many, many years ago. And for whatever reason, I found myself in this horrible scenario where I was in love with her. She was not in love with me. And I remember feeling like, dang, if I just really show her how much I love her, if I really show her how much I care, if I show her how much I'm into her, she's gonna get it. The switch is gonna flip, and she's gonna figure out that I'm the right man for her. Right at that time, I'm 19 years old. I didn't understand how this dynamic works. I didn't understand that I was pushing myself down deeper into quicksand by giving my very best to somebody who didn't even deserve it, didn't value it, didn't appreciate it. Right. So effectively, what happens in that situation, in my view, is, and I don't think you're going to hear this anywhere else because I'm a deep thinker. I've been thinking about this stuff for a long time. So I think this is a unique way to kind of look at it. Is you really have created a relationship or created a dynamic between almost like a drug dealer and a drug pusher, right? So she's got the dope, she's got the good stuff, the drug, right? The she's got the keys to my happiness, right? Because I am fixated on this woman. I'm determined to make sure that this woman is gonna like me. You know, like that song. Remember that? Everybody remember that scary song Jennifer Hudson sang? No, 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 no way. I'm living without you. I'm staying. I don't want to be free. Right? So why would somebody sing that song? Well, you're singing it because you believe, again, because you're not in your right mind. You're a drug addict at that point. You're addicted to whatever they got. Whatever they got, you need that dose in order for you to have a normal day. So just like a drug addict, if you don't get that hit, you're disheveled, you're stressed out, you're sad, you're depressed, right? Just like a heroin addict, literally. So think about this. Why would you sing a song like that? Well, because you're not in your right mind and you truly believe somehow irrationally that if I keep on telling you how desperate I am, that somehow you're going to decide to love me because I've proven to you that I'm the most loyal person to you. I'm the most committed. That's insanity. That is absolutely insane. That is not, we know that that's not going to work, right? But why do we know it? We know it because we're all rational. We're not really sort of fixated on anybody in that particular way right now. We're not going through that. But when you went through it, you didn't understand that. right? And then also think about it on the other side. If somebody's singing that song to you and you barely value that person anyway, and yet they're still digging themselves deeper into the sand by letting you know how much they need you and all this other stuff, it's going to repel you. It's not going to make you go closer to that person. Well, why is that? Well, if you go to economics, there's this thing called supply and demand. You familiar with that? So what happens to a commodity when it's in oversupply? Somebody answer me in the chat. What happens in economics when you have a commodity that's flooded the market, that's in oversupply? When your love is in oversupply, when your attention is in oversupply, when your presence is in oversupply in a market where you're not even valued anyway, you're not even valued yet. Well, then your values, the price is going to keep dropping. It's going to keep plummeting. Right? So you have to hit a reset button. And actually, believe it or not, see, this is so crazy. This is how deep I think about economics and stock markets and all that. In the stock market, when that happens, when an asset value drops, when the price of a stock starts to crash, they have something called a circuit breaker. And the circuit breaker is where they say, okay, stop. It's like a referee blowing the whistle. Stop. No more trading in this stock right now. Because, well, why did they stop trading? Well, because all the research says that when investors start pushing the price down and down and down, they get past the point of being rational anymore. They're not rational. They're now irrational. They're too emotional. And they're like, we need to hit a reset button so you can take a step back and think about what you're doing. Think about your next move for a minute before you make that move. Well, I think that in relationships sometimes, especially when you hit that spiral, when you're in a situation, this is something I learned from my lovely wife, who happens to be a relationship therapist and all this other stuff. And I talk to a lot of other therapists because my wife is one. You have to do that when you find yourself in any kind of a emotional spiral in a relationship. So when you're like sitting there like Jennifer Hudson talking about, no way, I'm living without you. I'm staying. I don't want to be free. If I can't have you, nobody can. Ah! Somebody needs to pull you out of that situation. Somebody needs to blow the whistle, pull you back and say, look at you. What are you doing? Like, why have you lost the value of yourself to the point where you're doing this, engaging in acts that are only going to serve to humiliate you? You're literally offering yourself to someone who has proven to you that they don't want you, they don't like you, they don't value you. So let's take a step back, because you're a drug addict now. You need to go to rehab, just like a drug addict, and sit there by yourself for a while, detached from the drug, and really reassess your reality and reassess your own worth and your own value. Do you understand what I'm saying? I know this is a big analogy, but I hope this makes I hope this makes sense to you, because it makes sense to me. But I know sometimes I talk fast and the ideas come to me and I just have to let them out. So I really think overall that when you're talking about, well, let's go back to the original point of marriage. I think that a big mistake a lot of people make is that they chase the person that they really want the most without even taking a moment to assess their own worth, to determine, does this person actually want me? And I will say for a fact, my wife was a 10. No shame in saying that. I would put on a stack of Bibles that I married the woman of my dreams. When I tell you, I'm not playing with y'all when I say this. But when my wife told me that she was interested in dating me, right? Because I didn't know she'd be interested or not. I did make the first step finally. And she was like, she literally later on said, why didn't you ask me sooner? I was like, well, because I was young and busy and doing stuff. Right. But when she said, okay, the next thing I did was I said, okay, Boyce, let's take a step back. Let's make sure that she appreciates you as much as you appreciate her. Because I don't know if anybody's ever gone through that, but there's nothing worse than to get a chance to be with the person of your dreams and find out that they don't like you the same way you like them. Or you ever have somebody that's maybe your friend and you're attracted to your friend, but then you find out that your friend would be a terrible girlfriend or a terrible boyfriend, right? Like that, I think all these assessments have to be made. And what I believe, honestly, is I think that because girls don't have those fathers in the house the way they should, giving them that fatherly advice that where they understand where men are coming from and how doggish men can be when it comes to things like sex. I don't know if they are really given the advice necessary to fully assess what their worth is without either overestimating their worth or underestimating their worth. Right? Because you have some that overestimate, like literally think your stuff don't stink, don't want to be accountable for nothing, don't want to apologize for anything, don't want to settle for nothing, and have these expectations that are literally so far high in the clouds and no man can ever reach that expectation. Because I don't care who you marry, I don't care what man you pick, you're gonna marry a human being. No matter what, you'll never marry an alien. You'll never marry a Marvel character. You'll never marry a superhero. You'll never marry somebody that was born on the moon. You're going to marry a human being. And so sometimes when you get to the point where you refuse to accept any flaws whatsoever, well, then you're gonna find yourself just doing that David Carradine Kung Fu show where he spends the whole show 8 seasons straight looking for his father, looking for something that doesn't exist. You spend your whole life looking, oh, I'm looking for the right one. There's nothing scarier. I'm gonna tell you like this. This is just a little experience I've seen. There's nothing scarier than to meet a really attractive person who is, say, over the age of 40, who's always been looking for the one. That's a massive red flag. If you are drop dead gorgeous and you tell me that the reason you're single at 43 years old and never been married, nothing, is because you can't find the right one, that right there tells me that you're way up here. It just because you're gorgeous. Why wouldn't ain't no man wanted to try to lock that down? No, you're like the princess in the tower where the where they she's got the dragon and 50 men have tried to go save her out of the tower and the dragon slayed them all. Hey, so your dragon is slaying everybody. So I'm not gonna even try to climb up into that tower. What's more interesting is when you meet that woman who's 35, 40 years old who says that she's been proposed to several times, or even if she's already been married or whatever, that would say that somebody saw her as someone that they could actually consider being with long term, right? So I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm not putting anybody in a category, but I think these little things are important. And again, this is me. This is my economic thinking. One thing that we learn in economics is that not only is there rarely such a thing as a free lunch, but typically when something appears to be too good to be true, it probably is, right? And I don't know if that is something that we learn enough. But typically, when something appears to be too good to be true, it probably is. And so usually, if you meet somebody over 35 and they have they check all the boxes and they look like the perfect mate, the perfect spouse, you should probably ask, well, why? If this person's so great, why has nobody picked that person up? And usually there is always an answer. The answer might be an okay answer. It might be I was already married, I got a divorce, or I got engaged and it didn't work out. It could be I was in medical school studying so much I didn't have time for a serious relationship. All those things make sense. Or it could be that he's like secretly gay. He doesn't like women that much, right? I've seen. What's another one? Or he's just a player and he likes to dangle a fantasy, sell a dream to women that think that they might be the one that he picks. The rapper Too Short used to rap about that. He said that women would sleep with him because he's got a whole lot of money and they think they're going to get money from him. He says, so what I do is I get them to have sex with me and then I don't give them anything. That's what he literally said in a book. Not in a book, I'm sorry, in his album. He said, I give the broke blank, I don't give the broke blank one damn dime or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember what song it was. So I think that overall, I think that idea of compatibility and a fit and understanding self-worth is important. I think an easy way to really see it. And the reason I talk about this is because y'all have I really need you to understand. I really want to impress upon you just how impactful bad relationships or good relationships can be to your economic outcomes. As an economics guy, as a finance guy, I can't go explain wealth and wealth acquisition to a community that doesn't value family, where families are falling apart and everybody's traumatized and everybody's screwed up. That's like a teacher trying to teach math to kids who didn't eat that night, who got molested the day before, who don't have a place to live. Teachers inadvertently have to become social workers so they can get to the business of teaching math or teaching English, right? If you've ever seen a lot of our teachers in the hood, what do? They end up becoming social workers. They end up worrying about whether or not Lil Quan's going to get shot on his way to school, or they worry about why Cindy hasn't come to class in 2 weeks and they got to go to her house, or they have to buy, when I was a track coach for kids, I was a track coach for inner city kids in Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm from. And I had to be a social worker because our kids were going through some real stuff. I had to go and buy track suits for kids or uniforms for kids that could not afford uniforms. I had to take them out to eat after practice because there was no food in the house. You have to do these extra things. So to some extent, as a finance teacher, professor, whatever I am, to you, I have to talk about these other issues because these other issues impede on our ability to get to the main thing. We can't get to the main thing if you're destroying your wealth because you've gotten 2 divorces and they wiped you out for everything that you have. And that means maybe you don't have conflict resolution skills. So your relationships fall apart. And next thing you know, you're spending all your money trying to repair damage from choices that might have been made before. Or it's very, very hard for me to explain how to build wealth when you got 8 babies mamas, because nobody ever taught you about the importance of sexual discipline. Okay. So anyway, do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to say hello to everybody on Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance, and let's see this brother now, Vagabond King. I see he says, Doc, they say you scamming. Well, I don't know who the they is, but I just want to say to you, if that question is a legitimate question, if you're asking that question to be in a productive way and in an optimistic way or in an open-minded way, I will answer the question. But if you're asking it to be a troll, I'm going to have to remove you from the class because I've already addressed things. The number one thing that people are talking about is they assume that because I support a lot of Black-owned businesses that somehow I got money with it from the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, which is 100% unequivocally untrue. And in fact, if you want to know how serious that is, I've talked to my lawyers about sending letters and filing lawsuits against people who've been falsely claiming that I got money from the Tulsa Fund. I did not get, you heard it here, and I'm going to repeat this. I did not get one penny from that fund. I support Black-owned businesses. I will not stop supporting them. Julian Gordon and Jay Morrison had a dispute over the Tulsa Fund. I've supported Julian every bit as much as I've supported Jay because I've supported hundreds of Black people. There are hundreds of Black-owned businesses out here that exist because I was one of the first people to encourage them. So don't do that. Don't do that, brother, because that's not fair. That's not right. I've been in this game. I've been 100% honest and 100% helpful, and I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, but none of it, that nonsense is silly. So some of the stuff that maybe comes in here comes from people that I don't know if they're jealous because they don't know me and they don't know that I would help them too. But either way, though, that is 100% untrue. So I'm gonna address that one time, and now I'm gonna move back to the topic. So if you make another comment like this, I will have to ask you to leave. But hopefully you were just asking because you wanted to be sure. So if you're asking to want to be sure, then I can respect that. But if you're being a troll, then join the club. There's a billion trolls out here. If you ever do anything well, then you're gonna get trolled for it, and I understand that. All right. So anyway, do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And by the way, one of the false rumors about the Black business school is that you have to have a lot of money to join. That is not true. We give away tons of free stuff. In fact, we guarantee that we'll give you more stuff away for free than your university gave you, which charged you $100,000 to attend. So if you want to get some of the free stuff, just go to boycewatkins.com. There's plenty of free stuff. We have free books, free trainings, free everything, all kinds of free stuff. The $5 a day investment plan, my book called It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, a new paradigm for Black America. You can get a digital copy of that for free. Also, if you text the word stock to 31996, I'll send you some free stuff that way too. So feel free to text the word stock to 31996. All right. So let's get back to the topic. I know some of y'all don't like me to have to address some of this silly stuff, but every now and then somebody will come in and say something that just isn't true. And I just try to I don't address it most of the time, but it's really kind of weird on the internet how someone could just make something up and then people will just run with it. But the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, I was an investor in the fund. I did put money in like 15,000 other people. So if it doesn't succeed, I lose money too. That's where I'm at with the fund. I never got an endorsement deal, but that's it. It's like, yeah, you got a Black-owned business, brother. Go. I want to see you win. That's how I am. And I think that this is the thing. And another reason why I think it's okay to talk about this too is because it makes you kind of nervous about supporting anything. It makes you like, dang, if I support this person, are they going to turn on me? Is this going to like flip into something like it shouldn't? Like, it's really hard because in my position, I feel like I'm supposed to support Black-owned businesses. That's what I've been doing for 20 or 30 years. And but it's crazy though, because you have some people who literally will eat their own. And it's the energy is just horrible, and I don't like it. And I'm just done with that. I'm not. A lot of the work I do is going to be disconnected from that space. And if anybody comes with that nonsense, it's you're out. So anyway, let me stop talking. Y'all don't have to worry about this type of stuff, but it comes with the territory, right? It comes with the territory, and I'm being open in terms of just trying to figure out the proper way to deal with it, because I don't want to be disconnected, but it's like, Lord Jesus, some of these people are just crazy. So anyway, let me keep going here. All right, so we're talking about this comment I made earlier on Twitter where I said, don't marry someone because you like them, marry someone because they like you. And I think that, the overarching point here that I want to make is that I don't believe there's such a thing as like a good man and a bad man, or a good woman and a bad woman. I mean, that's kind of true, but not unconditionally true. And what does that mean? Well, if you were to look at my life, there have been times in relationships where I might have been seen as a great man. My wife will tell you that I'm attentive. She'll tell you that I take out the trash, that I love her kids, that I am, that I do my best to be the best husband I can be. But I don't think every woman I've ever dated would say that, right? Maybe, and it might be because there's a conflict of interest. Maybe it was because I saw that woman as a girlfriend and not a wife. So maybe they get online and they see me, rolling out the red carpet for this other woman, and they may say, "Well, what was wrong with me? Why didn't Boyce treat me that way?" Well, because it was a different situation, right? It was just different. It doesn't mean you're not valuable. um, you should be in the place where you're valued the most. So if someone had wanted to marry me and I wasn't interested in marrying them, then their best move would to be, if they wanted to get married, would to be to get in a space with a man that saw them in that role, right? So it's like if you have a job and you are the middle manager and you say, I'd make a great CFO. I don't know why my boss doesn't see me as a CFO. I don't know why they won't promote me to CFO. I've got all the credentials. That work as hard as me with my background they should be making twice as much money as I make, and blah blah blah. And I get that, but there's a point where you have to just realize that maybe that's just not the place for you, right? Maybe they don't see the value in you the way you see the value in yourself. Maybe you have to be with a different company that is going to see you in the role of a CFO, that's going to give you the salary that you deserve. So maybe you let them know a couple of times, but then eventually, unfortunately, you might have to make the uncomfortable decision to switch companies. And so I think that in marriage, sometimes when I've seen things end in disaster, or when I've seen scenarios where I remember I had a friend that just told me that her husband just decided one day he didn't want to be a husband anymore. He just decided, I don't want to do this anymore. and and I don't know if that could be prevented, but I know that they got divorced, of course. And but I also believe that there are certain ways you can tell if a person is going to be a good spouse for you. And the way people go about picking their relationships, I don't think factors any of that in, especially if you're looking for a spouse. So let me give you some scientific data here on some characteristics that make a man a good husband. This is according to research. This is academic research. There's literally academic journals being cited in this information I have here. Number one, emotional stability. Research has indicated that emotional stability is a vital characteristic for a successful long-term relationship. A man who is emotionally stable can manage stress well, is not prone to mood swings, and can provide a stable environment for a relationship to flourish. Surprise, surprise, right? So that would, in my view, mean that you have to be really careful about people that have issues with drugs or alcohol. If a man or woman drinks a lot or uses drugs, well, that is a recipe for emotional stability. They're going to be all over the place, right? I don't drink. And even as a person who doesn't drink, there are times in my own marriage, I know where I get emotionally tested, where I get mad, I get triggered because I was heavily traumatized as a kid. Imagine if I was also swigging down, vodka all day long. Imagine just how that would multiply my emotional reaction to things. And if anybody's ever been in a house with a stone cold alcoholic or somebody who drinks a lot, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And the thing about it is that when you're talking about an environment that involves children and a family, you're talking about things that need structure and growth. You're growing something and you're building something. Structure and growth does not tend to flourish or occur in spaces that are wired for chaos. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like when I watch those videos of 9/11 and you see these big tall towers that they built, the World Trade Centers, right? And these buildings were big structures. Well, when this jet airplane smashed into the building and jet fuels everywhere and everything explodes, well, what happened? The buildings come down, the buildings tear down, and your relationships can be the same way. You've got something structured that runs into chaos. So when you talk about a family, when I view a family, I view something that requires structure, discipline, planning. You got to have strategic thinking. You can't sort of fly off the handle at every little thing, right? That's not just something that has to be innate in you, but it has to be something that you intentionally nurture within yourself. It requires a certain degree of maturity Like I can be calm in stressful situations because as a 52-year-old man, I done seen things. I done been through things. It's hard to rattle me. It's hard to, I've been through, right? But maybe if I was 22 with no training from my father, who was a military guy and a cop, so he also understood emotional stability. Maybe if I hadn't had the training and I was much younger, imagine if I was 22 years old, without a father, without any training, and on drugs. What kind of husband or father do you think that I could be? What do you think? I mean, what do you really think I could maintain the discipline necessary to create something that lends itself to structure and growth? You're nurturing children, you're raising children, right? You're maintaining a household, right? This is not a space that does well when the leader of that space is erratic in their thinking, or overly impulsive, or out of control, or slapping the shit out of everybody, or coming home and cussing people out, and or going flying off the handle. But here's the problem. Here's the thing, right? This is where entertainment messes up the minds of these poor young girls. These poor young girls end up looking up to these rappers. And I'm gonna tell you, these rappers, not all of them, not all of them. I'm talking about all the rappers. I have to make that clear because I know a lot of rappers and they think I hate rappers. And I don't hate rappers. I like rappers when they act like they got some damn sense. But if you listen to their music, what do they promote? They promote sexual irresponsibility, chaos, because you got kids everywhere and diseases and whatever. They promote financial irresponsibility. That kills your structure because you need to maintain a structured institution called your family. You need resources to do that. You need to be able to preserve resources in a disciplined way. Well, I can't do that if I'm doing this everywhere, right? What else? Violence, Black people killing each other, the massive disrespect of women. So if you're lucky enough to get a chance to date the latest rapper who's the hottest guy on earth, who's got 10 million women and $10 million, you really think I'm going to respect you when all I do is rap about how women ain't shit? And then what's the other? Oh, I forgot. Drug addiction. They mass market drug addiction. And I explained to you earlier, drug addicts are not stable people. They are not reliable people. They are committed to one thing. They're committed to the drug. And that right there. And then when you throw in super drugs like fentanyl, which I believe, honestly, just a little side note, I believe the Chinese government deliberately pushes fentanyl into the United States because they know that you can't build a society with a whole bunch of drug addicts. Their goal is to deliberately destabilize the United States. That's what I believe. Because if you follow fentanyl, what's been going on, the overdose rate is insane. The addiction rate is insane. You go to some of these cities where they have very loose drug policies. You got homeless people and drug addicts laid out on the streets everywhere. I have several friends in the last 2 weeks who had to take their 20-year-old healthy sons to rehab because of fentanyl, right? So, and why would the Chinese do that? Well, because the Chinese have a society that is built on those principles of stability and growth that I talk about. They nurture their children, they maintain order by any means necessary. So they want the United States to be the exact opposite. Also, China is a country that had a really bad experience with drugs. Europeans got them hooked on opium, which is a much lighter than fentanyl. Fentanyl is about 50 times stronger than opium, right? So the Chinese, though, their problem was opium. And when they had an opium issue, they couldn't get anything done. There was no structure. There was no growth and development in the economy, in the society, because everybody was trying to get high. So effectively, when you do that sort of thing, when you sort of get to the point where you are you're allowing things like drugs and alcohol into your house, just know that you're undermining, significantly reducing the likelihood that family is going to survive. Okay, so I'm gonna keep reading this list. Do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button. Also hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when I go live. And also, don't forget the All Black National Convention happens October 20th in Atlanta. So if you'd like to join us, just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. We have over 40 experts on everything from relationships and health to finances, everything else. So feel free to join us. It's also a great family reunion if you want to get around people that are like-minded. All right, so here's more things that define a good husband. One, we talked about emotional stability. Two, effective communication. A man who can communicate openly, honestly, and effectively will be able to work through conflicts and challenges in a relationship more smoothly. So I was just talking to a young kid yesterday, and he was talking about how he has trouble communicating with his girlfriend, and I gave him tips on how to communicate a little more. and how to listen a little bit more, because listening and communication can become very important in marriage. So ladies, if you're picking a husband and he can't communicate and doesn't want to talk to you at all, that means he probably isn't a good fit for being a husband, but he could be worked on, right? So if he's open-minded enough to realize he needs to grow, then that's a plus, right? So that means you can get a counselor, get some therapy, and help work on the skills required to maintain the institution called your family. Let's see, number 3, empathy and understanding. They said that good husbands have empathy and understanding toward their partner's feelings and experiences. A man who shows genuine interest in understanding his partner's perspective and feelings may be a good spouse. Number 4, partnership and teamwork. A man who views the relationship as a partnership and actively collaborates with his partner in various aspects of life is likely to be a good husband. Teamwork allows couples to share responsibilities and work together toward common goals. Number 5 is commitment. A strong commitment to the relationship, characterized by a willingness to work on and maintain and improve the relationship, is another good indicator. A man who is committed is more likely to work through challenges and less likely to give up on the relationship. And that last point really gets to the core of why I made that statement of, don't just pick somebody because you like them, pick somebody that likes you. Because people tend to be committed to things that they like, right? If somebody doesn't like you, but you're lucky enough to have them in your bedroom, that person isn't going to be committed to you. So the minute you get on their nerves, they're gonna be out. They're gonna disappear. They're gonna say, "Well, get out of my face." But if a man sees you as an irreplaceable prize, then he's gonna work his ass off to keep you. But also, working his ass off to keep you isn't always enough. I think that he has to have the discipline to work his butt off to keep you, right? So think about it like a sport. In a basketball game, everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to be Michael Jordan. There's about 80-90% of all men on this earth, I'm sure, if they could be Michael Jordan, they would. If they could win championships, they would. But everybody can't be Michael Jordan, right? Because there's only a few men that are capable of having the discipline, skill, and hard work and commitment necessary to compete at that level. And so this is where fathers are very important, because I have found that men that have strong fathers and strong family structures don't just have the desire to be committed, they have the ability to be committed. It's like if I say, I'll give you an example where I actually lose in this example for sure is I have a desire to run another marathon, right? Like I really would like to get out there and do it. I ran a marathon with my wife in 2019. I was very proud that I did it, but I really don't want to do it because I start running. I get about to mile 3. I'm ready to go in and like take a nap. I just don't want to do it. I don't have the background. I don't have the physique. I don't have the mindset. I just, but I can tell you, yeah, I'm really committed. I really want to do this, but no, I really don't. I really don't. And so relationships are a little bit like that marathon. Sometimes, let me just say, it's hard to run a marathon with somebody who's trained to be a sprinter. If a person is only trained on how to handle short-term relationships that last maybe 1 year or 2 years, it's very hard for them to suddenly flip and be able to maintain a relationship that's supposed to last forever. I knew a lady who cheated on her husband, and I asked her. I expected, because I thought the fairy tale was true, and I thought that she was going to give me some tragic story about why she cheated on her husband. I was like, "What happened? Was he abusive?" And she said, "No, he wasn't abusive." I said, "Well, did he? He must have cheated on you. Did he cheat on you?" She said, "No, he didn't cheat on me. He's a good guy." I said, "Well, what happened? Why would you do that?" And she said, "Well, I got married at 25, and then I got to be 35, and when they said that you will be with that person forever, I really didn't know what forever meant. I didn't know how long forever actually was." And I got that. I got what she was saying. Do you follow what I'm saying? It's like she literally just said, I didn't, like, it's easy to say, yeah, we're gonna be together forever, blah, blah, blah. But it's hard to do it if you've never visualized it, right? You've never maybe seen somebody like I saw my parents together in the 1970s. I saw them together in the 1980s, the 1990s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and now the 2020s. I saw this, right? So when I thought about forever, I'm visualizing the rest of my life, right? I don't know if everybody thinks that way. I think that for a lot of people, they just kind of say it and don't really internalize what that really means because they've never actually done anything more than maybe 2 or 3 years. So, so I think that you can tell a lot from a person by Little things like how long their previous relationships have lasted, how long their parents' relationship lasted. When I hire people, one of the things that we look at is how long have you been on your previous job? If you've had a string of jobs that were 6 months long, I don't assume we're going to be any different. I'm not assuming, oh, suddenly you're gonna get with our company and decide to be here for 20 years. No, I'm going to assume that you're going to be with us for 6 months because you're a 6 month kind of person. You're a sprinter. Some people are sprinters like that, right? And it's okay. Sprinters have a place. If you go to the World Championships, they have lots of sprinters there. But you don't go up to a sprinter and say, "Can you run the marathon for us?" Because you're going to end up disappointed. Sprinters can't run that long. So if you're going to get married, I would try to figure out if you're dealing with somebody that can run a marathon or if they're looking to sprint. All right, so here are a couple more things. This relates to the economic piece. I like to throw this in here to make sure that we don't get distracted and assume that I'm trying to become a relationship advice guru. I'm not trying to do that. I'm sharing these topics because I have some experience and also it affects your economics. So here are 5 ways that bad relationships will destroy you economically. In fact, here are 5 ways that it's almost impossible to have wealth without healthy relationships. In fact, if I think about it in terms of hierarchies, I would say that people who have a lot of healthy relationships have the easiest time building wealth. And then if you can't have a bunch of healthy relationships, maybe you're just an introvert and you don't like people, then the next step down would be to have very few relationships. Just don't have just don't have a lot of people around you. That way you ain't got nobody to fight with. You just isolate yourself and see what you can do on your own. Right? Because at least ain't nobody around messing up whatever you're doing, right? It might take you longer to build, but at least ain't nobody gonna mess it up, right? Now, the third tier, though, is where you have people that have a whole bunch of relationships and they do them badly. If you have a bunch of relationships with people, you end up meeting a bunch of friends, have a bunch of boyfriends, a bunch of girlfriends, a bunch of interactions with a bunch of people, and a bunch of crazy energy in your space that distracts you, harms you, destroys you. Y'all fighting, you getting revenge on each other, you're going to court. That's the worst. That's like the basement. That's when you're living in hell, a hell that you created for yourself. That's like somebody starting 87 businesses and running them poorly. If you're gonna start those businesses, at least run them well. If you can't run them well, then don't do it. That's what I was saying. So with marriage, I am never a person that is going to sit here and say everybody needs to get married. I'd be lying if I said that because I don't believe that. I didn't get married till my 40s. I get it. And again, that's another stupid rumor I have to dispel. People are like, Dr. Boyce is telling men they got to go marry single moms. I ain't telling you to do that, fool. That's what I did. I love my woman. I hope you love yours. Stop thinking that because I'm telling you what I did and because I honor the black woman next to me and I love my life, that I'm telling you to try to be like me. You can't be like me. You can try to be like, it ain't going to work. Be you. I'm never going to be good at being you. You're never going to be good at being me. I'm never going to be good at being a guy who is a keyboard warrior sitting in his mama's basement playing Xbox all day and bitching on the internet. And you'll never be good at being a scholar who is out here doing the things that I do. We're not the same. So my point is to say that I'm not here to tell you that everybody needs to get married. I would never, ever say that because I believe in freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. I believe in your fundamental right to live your own life the way you need to live it. What I am saying, though, is that if you do it, then make the investment to make sure you do it right. People get married all the time and spend not 1 minute learning how to have a healthy marriage. That's about the most unstrategic decision making that you can possibly. That's like starting a business and you don't put no energy into running the business. You don't put no money into the business, or buying a car. You don't put no gas in it, or getting a new toy, and you don't even know how to work it. You don't even want to read the instructions on how to use it, or a new lawnmower and you just put it in the garage and don't. You can't. You have to. If you're invested in this thing, any investment you ever make, and most of your investments are not financial, by the way. But if you go think about it like a business, if I buy a business, if I say I want to go into the healthcare business and I'm going to buy this healthcare facility because it's very profitable and I really want to be in this business, at that point, that's not the end of anything. That's the beginning. That's the beginning of a 10,000, 20,000 hour process of me learning about the business, working on the business, pour money into the business, because just because I acquired it doesn't mean it's going to succeed. I have to do the things necessary to make sure that business is successful. Because if I don't, then it's ultimately going to harm me. I'm going to have another problem on my hands. If I get a new car, I got to learn how to drive it. I got to do maintenance on the car. I got to put gas in it. So effectively, what I would say to you is that if you get married, just do it right. If you can't do it right, then just don't do it. That's it. That's what I would say. Marriage is not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing. It's a powerful thing. Anything that's powerful has the capacity to help you or to harm you. So let me give you a few reasons why bad relationships are wealth destroyers. And I want you to practice seeing these things. When you read about celebrity divorces or you read about somebody having a problem, I want you to look at their life and look at their relationships. And I want you to see if you see any of these variables pop up, and also go through your mind's eye right now in your memory and see if you can think of examples where you've seen this. Number one, conflict and litigation, divorce proceedings. Bad relationships can lead to divorce, which often involves expensive legal proceedings and the division of assets. How many people have seen somebody go broke from a divorce? Business, Halle Berry right now, she's paying a whole lot of money to her ex-husband's plural. Business partnerships. Conflicts with business partners can lead to lawsuits and other costly resolutions. Starting a business with somebody is a lot like marrying them. You're signing a legal contract together. So you better think carefully about who you pick. You don't pick a scrub to start a business with, because the scrub isn't going to work very hard, and you're going to be pissed off. And then next thing you know, you're going to end up suing each other. It becomes messy. I learned that the hard way over time. So there's nothing perfect about my own journey. In fact, I'm sharing this because I want you to benefit from my mistakes. Poor decision making. They said impaired judgment, stress, and tension from a bad relationship. This is where bad relationships can cost you financially. Stress and tension from a bad relationship can affect one's ability to make sound financial decisions. So when you have a bad relationship, you are not happy, you are sad, you're depressed, you're not making good choices. You can't go conquer the world if you're conquered at home. You can't go out and achieve all your greatest dreams when you're living in a nightmare. Misguided advice. Sometimes individuals in bad relationships might receive or follow misguided advice from their partners, leading to losses or missed opportunities. Ooh, how many people have ever seen somebody who was a superstar with a lot of potential who married an idiot? And then the idiot, because they respect this idiot, they give power to an idiot. This idiot gives them a lot of bad advice, and this idiot ends up messing them up. I did business with a lady one time who was married to an idiot, and I made a very good deal with her. We made a very good offer where she would have made a ton of money. And her idiot husband, because of his idiot ego, this whack ass punk who ain't never accomplished nothing, was constantly bogarting. I don't know if he was jealous because he thought that, because I'm kind of known, right? So it's like, oh, Dr. Boyce Watkins is calling me, and well, who's this guy think he is? Well, all right, so maybe he's competing with me or something. I have no idea. But this idiot was interfering constantly, to the point where he was pushing her to make a bad deal. He was making very unreasonable demands, and we said, thanks, but no thanks. We can't do that, right? And we walked away, and so she lost a great opportunity because she was listening to an idiot. So ultimately, your partner becomes an advisor for you. And so this is why, see, a lot of y'all get mad that Black women want to be intelligent, educated women kind of want a man that's a little bit smarter, a man that they can really feel comfortable with his advice. Well, if you're not good at being a good advisor and you haven't taken the time to develop yourself as someone who can give good advice, then don't be surprised if she doesn't respect that advice. People ain't stupid. People can't dumb themselves down to follow behind someone who is incapable of leading. And this is not anybody's fault. I've seen it more so in that direction, but I've also seen it the other way around. I've seen men have, women next to them that were volatile or crazy or forcing them into bad decisions, bad choices. I knew a guy who got killed one time because his girl got in an argument with somebody and pushed her man to go, well, you a punk if you don't go out here and go deal with him, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, he gets killed. And I'm gonna tell you what, I told my wife, I said, thank God you're not the kind of woman that's going to cause me to get shot trying to defend your honor. I would do it, but thank goodness that you don't push it. You're not somebody who's going to push the issue, because there's some women who will push the issue. And so that's another example. Okay. So let me keep going here. All right. Yeah. So the next thing, they said emotional spending. They say compensatory spending. Individuals in strained relationships might resort to retail therapy or other forms of emotional spending to cope with unhappiness, which can quickly erode savings. That's interesting. Anybody remember that song 30 years ago? It was a long time ago. But I think it was called Hit 'Em Up, where the lady was like, ladies, if your man want to get butt wild, then da-da-da-da, hit 'em up style, right? Spend all his money. That's what she's basically saying. She's saying that because he broke her heart, she's going to go spend all his money. So, which it's, if they're married, that's also her money, but still, right? So compensatory spending is a common thing, I guess, that happens in some relationships. Over gifting. Sometimes people try to buy the affection or make up for relationship shortcomings with expensive gifts, which can be a significant financial strain. Absolutely. Number 4, lost opportunities, career impact. A bad relationship can often consume a lot of time and energy, impacting one's focus and performance at work, which could potentially result in missed promotions or job losses. That's interesting. Has anybody ever seen like a situation where somebody was so bogged down with a bad relationship that they were just missing opportunities like left and right? You probably have gone through that. I've seen that and I've experienced that. It's not fun. Investment opportunities. So part of the reason you maintain your relationship, in my view, is so you can get back to focusing on the other things that you want to do, right? So if you don't focus on the other things that you want to, if you're not able to manage things at home, it's very hard for you to accomplish anything outside of the home. Let's see, investment opportunities. One might miss out on investment opportunities due to financial instability caused by the relationship, or because the partner disagrees with or hinders financial growth strategies. So to tell you something personal, a lot of people ask me why I didn't marry my wife when we were younger. And I know that the whole rumor about her friends owning me and all that, which is hilarious because that wasn't the case. I just didn't want to get married in my 30s because I was an entrepreneur and it required me to be really focused. It required me to work, 14 hours a day. It also required me to spend money until I spent my last penny. And in a marriage, it's really hard to do that without being seen as an irresponsible spouse. Now, in hindsight, maybe I could have got married if I either married a woman who had the same risk tolerance as me, who really trusted me to be able to allow me to really do that, which is still risky though, because when you got kids and stuff like that, that makes people very nervous. Or 2, maybe a woman that had enough financial security herself where she could have been a financial cushion for me, right? So I think that if you're an entrepreneur, those are scenarios that can work. I think that if you are an entrepreneur or try to become one and you're in a relationship, one of those 2 things I think should be true. Either your spouse should add additional financial security and emotional security and other things you might need because it's really hard to start a business. You're going to fail a lot. Or 2, they can they just ride or die like that. They're just ready to, if you get to the point where you living in a 1-bedroom apartment eating pizza every day, they're willing to still stick it out with you in that, right? And that requires a certain disposition and risk preference, a different relationship with money. People who've been financially traumatized have a very hard time with situations that require them to make sacrifices at that level. So that's the difficult part of it. All right. So last thing they said is increased health expenses, stress-related illness. Bad relationships can lead to increased stress, which is linked to a host of physical and mental health problems, potentially resulting in higher medical expenses. And then, so a lot of times people get sick, cancers, things like that are linked to contempt. I saw a study that said that when your partner has contempt for you, you're more likely to die younger. Like literally just being in a house with somebody who hates you is something that can actually kill you. And then substance abuse. Sometimes people in bad relationships resort to substance abuse to cope, which can have both direct and indirect impacts on their finances, right? So either they're buying, drugs and spending money on that, or they're spending money on the health related problems that come with using drugs. So these are some ways that relationships affect your economics. So my simple advice on this is not investing advice. It's not even relationship advice. It's a perspective. My perspective is that if you're thinking like an investor, I think you should look at your relationships as one other type of asset that you invest in. Except in your relationships, you're not typically investing money. You're investing things that are much more valuable than money. You're investing your time. You're investing your energy. You're investing your emotional peace. You're investing your future in some cases, right? That's far more valuable than the amount of money that you have in your bank account, even if you're rich. So if you think about this, the same rules that would apply to managing a financial asset should also be applied when it comes to managing an emotional asset. If you are my friend, then I'm going to invest in that relationship. I'm going to try to build it. I'm going to repair it. I'm going to take time to call you. I'm going to take time to build with you. I'm going to take time to support you. I'm going to do all those things, right? Or maybe if it goes bad, I have to distance myself. I have to diversify. I have to, divest, right, from that relationship. Sometimes that happens too. If you are my wife, then you are my partner. You are my partner in the biggest business that I'll ever own. So as my partner, that means that we invest a significant amount of time and money into things like conflict resolution, into making each other happy, into at least maintaining the peace and the structure required for something to be maintained and for something to grow, especially because we have children that are watching everything that we do, and their development is heavily dependent on how we handle our situation. That requires a certain line of thinking. So I would say that if anything that I've said today is convincing to you, if anything that I say applies and is relevant to you, then I would encourage you to share that with your kids, right? Like share that. I would share that with your kids as kind of like the secret ingredient to wealth that they're probably not going to learn in college. And nobody's really going to teach them this, because I don't really think that America's a country that's built on healthy relationships. I don't think that the Black community is built on healthy relationships. If you look at some of what's mass marketed, you see a lot of reality TV. Most of those reality TV shows are heavily dysfunctional situations where a lot of young people are learning how to have a terrible life. And 9 times out of 10, if you have a terrible life, you ain't going to build no wealth. You ain't going to have no assets. You're not going to maintain anything. You're just going to go from one chaotic situation to another. And I really believe also just as part of being Black, I think that's what they want. I really do. I think they enjoy seeing you stumble. I think they enjoy seeing you run around on roller skates. I don't think they like seeing you sturdy and strong and firm and clear and all these other things. They want to see you stumbling and bumbling from one bad situation to the next, because when you are in constant chaos and in constant fear, then you're much easier to control that way. It's much easier for the government to control you. It's much easier for corporations to control you. It's much easier for all these systems to control you. So that's what I see, and that's what I believe. And so I know that I was explaining my comment on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter, my Twitter is Dr. Boyce Watkins and the number 1, Dr. Boyce Watkins 1. Feel free to come there, because I'm going to challenge your thinking. I'm going to lay stuff out there that hopefully sometimes I'm a little silly. Sometimes I'll put up funny stuff too, because I like to laugh, and people don't get that. They think that's weird that I find this guy will put up like jokes and stuff. But I think I like to laugh. I like to have fun. But then also, I throw up a lot of stuff that hopefully will help you in your thinking process too. And so feel free to follow me on Twitter, Dr. Boyce Watkins 1, and my Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. Last but not least, before I head out of here, I want to remind you the All Black National Convention is October 20th in Atlanta. And if you are interested in spaces that are built on peace, prosperity, productivity, Black love, Black education, Black wealth, etc., if that's your jam, then join us at the convention. You can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. And last but not least, if you'd like for me to send you profit alerts or our $5 a day investing plan and other free resources from the Black Business School, where we have 156,000 students. I'm really proud of that because we don't charge very much money. And we have been able to build this and maintain this without any government support or any major corporate sponsors, none of that stuff. And because I wanted to have a Black-owned university that was better than our HBCUs, and I think that we've accomplished a lot of that. So if you would like to get some free stuff from us, you can text the word STOCK to 31996. And I'll start sending you some free stuff, and you can kind of get started and get introduced to some of the things that we're doing over there. All right, guys. So God bless you. Hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. This podcast is on Spotify and Apple as well. So look for my name on those platforms. You can find me there too. And by the way, your support is important, because we don't have formal distribution. We don't have a radio network behind us, TV network, none of that. You are our distribution channel. So if you like what you see here, and if you sharing that to other people really means a lot to us, and it helps us to really grow. So thank you for your enthusiastic support. We couldn't do this without you. So God bless you. Have a great day. I'll see you guys soon. Take care now. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear. Have for what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.